Welcome to this week's Primetime Football Show. I'm your host, Sam Orko.
And I'm Ben Smith.
On this week's show, we cover a little bit of Premier League action. We look at the FA Cup fifth round recap and also Champions League football.
Great. We got some good stories to cover this week.
Yes, we do.
So the FA Cup, the first round, was a blowout. We have got two blowouts here. Chelsea at Brentford and Manchester City versus Leeds United. Were you surprised by any of these results?
Surprised, but let's look at the first game. Chelsea won 4-0. It was a replay. The game was at Stamford Bridge. I think after watching the first half, Brentford had a stake at this game. They were playing really good, solid football, and actually, I didn't see a way of Chelsea scoring because they were countering chances in the second half, and actually, Brentford scored a goal, which was actually disallowed.
They called the goal back.
Yeah, they called the goal back because the referee, David Luiz committed a foul, and the referee called it back. Well, gave him advantage, and Brentford actually scored a goal, and then the referee called it back for the initial free kick, which I think was a mistake. If Brentford would have scored that goal, it would have been a completely different game. And the score right now says 4-0. It proves that somebody looking in could say that the game was one-sided. If Brentford would have scored that one goal, then it would have been a completely different game. And I don't even think if Chelsea could have made it through because they made a lot of mistakes.
And you know, I wouldn't argue with that. I mean, that's a big game-changing goal that they called back. I mean, they gave him the free kick instead. Obviously, not the same. But I got to be honest with you. I mean, I thought Chelsea was going to roll regardless. I didn't really see any way they were going to lose a game like this, even though that these lower-tiered teams have been beating these strong Premier League teams of late. I think that some of them have to make it through. Why not Chelsea and why not Manchester City? Both very strong clubs.
Speaking of lower league teams beating Premier League teams, let's look at the other matchup. Leeds faced Manchester City. Leeds actually the game beforehand
handed Tottenham a loss. I mean, it's an impressive victory, sure, but I mean to come back in your next game and get blown out in such a way.
It's a 4-0 victory. I mean, I was hoping for that. I was hoping that they would take that the win that they beat Tottenham 2-1. I was hoping they'd take that win and use it as a guiding light and hopefully beat Manchester City. But I guess it wasn't to be. It wasn't written in the books for them to beat them. Manchester City were really the stronger side, and you could tell that Leeds United were out of their grasp matching up with them. One of the other games, though, probably one of the biggest surprises ever, is Blackburn Rovers actually managed to beat Arsenal over the weekend.
Managed? I mean, well, this is a struggling club in Arsenal right now, and they've been inconsistent all season long. I mean, this isn't a particularly strong club by any means right now. But I was a little surprised by that, and Arsene Wenger had quite the meltdown on the interview after the game.
Let's look at this. Let me tell you this. Having watched the game, Arsenal just were out of it. They didn't look like a unit. Let's put it that way.
I agree. Totally.
They didn't. It's a completely. I mean, Blackburn Rovers, with all credit to them and all credit to their fans who are watching this show. Hopefully, they used to be a EPL team. So
yeah,
I guess they have some of the players on the team right now have some sort of Premier League experience with them right now.
Sure, and I mean these clubs aren't unfamiliar with each other. I mean they're all in the same quote unquote league, and they all are familiar at least with each other, especially the lower league teams with some of the Premier League teams because obviously they try to emulate those teams. But I mean they just got the upper hand over Arsenal in that game. I mean it's quite the
it's a magic of the FA Cup. Let's look at the. Could we look at the next fixtures coming up? Kind of about.
Please.
Let's see.
I mean, these are some great games in themselves. Oldham versus Everton. We've got or Wigan Athletic rather. I'm sorry. Man City versus Barnsley. Man United Reading, who just ended a match today, as I understand. 2-1 Manchester City over Reading.
Yeah. I don't know if you're going to mention this, but your man Chicharito scored a goal.
Chicharito, yeah.
He's quite the devil, isn't he?
He's instant energy off the bench, and quite frankly, I mean, Manchester United, I've been saying it all season, they're the team to beat. Obviously, they're the strongest club in the Premier League right now, and there's going to be very few teams that are going to be able to stop them, especially a lower empowered team.
Looking at the fixtures that we have in front of us, which game actually strikes out to you as the one to watch?
I would probably say the Man United game. Obviously, I always like to watch Manchester United, regardless of who they play. They're playing the best football right now, and that's who I would really look to set the bar for.
Well, speaking of the United game, if United are already through the 6th round, Chelsea have to face Middlesbrough, and whoever wins that game, let's say Middlesbrough win it, they match up against Manchester United. I'm hoping that Chelsea beats Middlesbrough and matches up with Manchester City, because that's going to be a really good game. With Manchester United, that's going to be really good. It's going to be a really good game. And that's it. Manchester City versus Burnley is the next one. I look to Manchester City to just roll through to the next round. I don't think Barnsley are going to put up much of a fight.
Well, obviously, I mean, we want to see the best matchups in the game, and any time that these two Premier League teams match up in an FA Cup is a special moment, especially for teams like Chelsea and Manchester United, like you said, both playing very quality football right now. I would agree with you that that would be a matchup to really look forward to. For those of you who don't know, the 6th round is the quarterfinals, so this is getting
it's getting quite intense. It's getting right into the mix of it.
The teams remaining should be playing for the championship anyway, let's say.
And should really expect top quality football for the rest of the remainder of the games. Absolutely,
no more 1-0 losses to.
I don't know. I can't write the books. Yeah. You never know.
Anything can happen.
Let's move on to UEFA Champions League. Obviously, we have 4 games this week: 2 games on Tuesday and 2 games on Wednesday. Do you want to go through them?
Sure. I mean, we got Arsenal versus Bayern Munich coming up.
Ooh,
obviously, it's a mouth-watering matchup in itself. Porto versus Malaga. We have Galatasaray versus Schalke, and Milan versus Barcelona. What matchup are you looking forward to most?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'm not gonna lie to you. That's a really tough one.
There's some good football.
It's. I'll tell you this. Can I at least pick one from each day?
Please.
Can I at least do that? Or can I at least pick 3 out of the 4, or something like that? Yeah. Give me something to work with, because this is way too much. This is way too much football in one paper for me to handle. I'm sorry. Let's start with Tuesday. Arsenal match up against Bayern Munich. Oh, it's gonna be a good game. I'm speechless with it, because you have Bayern Munich, who are playing phenomenal football and seem to have been playing phenomenal football ever since they lost to Chelsea in the UEFA Champions League final. That's a different matter. We won't even get into that. And you have Arsenal, who just lost to Blackburn Rovers 1-0.
So what is the predicted outcome that you have for this game?
All right, let's put it this way. I have, due to the fact that Arsenal are home, I'm gonna go with the 2-0 win.
2-0 for Arsenal?
No, Arsenal. No. Arsenal's going to lose. Arsenal's going to lose.
Well, you started off Arsenal at home, obviously. I expect them to bounce back a little bit from their Blackburn loss.
You expect it.
Wenger's too much of a great coach to obviously lose 2 in a row in an embarrassing fashion.
You expect it, but I'm just going with. I think also you could put the fact that the team that they put up on Saturday was rather a weak team compared to the team that's going to play tomorrow.
Sure.
Yes.
And obviously that plays a big factor. But this is a team that has a lot of star power, and obviously I don't think that they're going to lose quite the way they did.
Usually, due to the fact that these games are 2 ties, at home and away, I'm going to go more graciously and say that Arsenal are going to play better at home than anything else. So I think if I can retract the 2-0 score, I think I'm going with a draw. At the very least, that's me leaning towards the Arsenal side. That's me choosing to believe that Arsenal are gonna have a phenomenal game compared to what they showed on the pitch in 90 minutes on Saturday. That's what's me going with a 1-1 draw.
A 1-1 draw. Okay, so it's not going to be a scoreless folly here.
It's going to be a tough game, but I do see averaging out the 2 games. I have Bayern Munich making it through by a score of 3-1.
Okay. Okay.
But it's gonna be really good football, and anybody who enjoys football ought to watch it.
Well, keeping with the trend of never picking draws here on Primetime Football, I actually see a 2-0 victory for Bayern Munich. Yeah, I think that Arsenal is going to bounce back, and the play obviously will step up, but Bayern Munich is playing the best football.
I just don't see.
Right
I don't see like. Bayern Munich have stars that like are playing at top level right now. They have like Ribery, they have Robin, they have a lot of players. I just don't see anybody that's doing it for Arsenal consistently every single day. They don't have that right now. The closest person I have is Walcott, and he's a striker. I mean, some teams flourish with the one player being in the middle.
Santi Carlos. I mean,
he hasn't.
He has flashes of greatness,
yes,
and obviously he's a very good young player, and he's the centerpiece of that offense. But I mean, compared to Ian Robin, like you said,
all I can hope for
Ribery.
As a spectator is both teams, whoever they put in 11, are in the top form, and if that happens, if both teams show up, it's going to be a phenomenal game. It's going to be a high-scoring, phenomenal game.
That's a big if.
It's a really big if. The next game that happens, actually, it's going to happen on Wednesday, is Barcelona versus AC Milan.
AC Milan, and we all know that they have recently been in the headlines because of the recent signing of Mario Balotelli, the Italian striker. Obviously, he makes this team, he gives them an extra dimension. He makes this team a championship quality team. Do you think they'll beat Barcelona?
That's a tough one. I don't think so. I think it's going to be a close game. It's going to be over the last couple of years that they've met, the games have always been action-packed, a lot of goals, and you can expect to see that this time around, coming around. But the fact that, like, I think you mentioned Mario Balotelli, I don't think he's going to play. I don't think, because I think it's cup tied because City were eliminated in the UEFA Champions League. So I mean,
You think he won't get minutes that game?
No, because I think there's stipulations. The stipulations, the fact that you can only play so many cup ties in a calendar year. That's why most players don't like switching to. They don't like the that's why most players don't like switching the January transfer window. But
I've forgotten about that rule.
I have high hopes for AC Milan, but I just don't have them winning against Barcelona.
Well, Barcelona is a prime form team right now, and obviously they're the best team, arguably in the world, besides in a country playing for countries.
I mean, to be honest with you, if they can stop Messi like Chelsea did last year, that's the last I'm talking about it. But if they can stop like Chelsea did last year, they have a chance. But that's the thing. I mean, Barcelona can hit you with so many different attackers from so many different angles, because they have Iniesta. They have actually Puyol's injured; he's not going to be playing. They have Iniesta. If you stop Messi, you have to worry about Iniesta, and there's a lot of talent in Barcelona, and that's it. I can't see it happening. I'll go with if I have to pick a scoreline, I can go with 2-1.
2-1 Barcelona.
On the low side, and if it's a high-scoring game, I'll go with 3-2, but with Barcelona still winning.
I don't see any more than 4 goals in this game. I'll say 3-1 Barcelona, but my heart tells me it'll be a 2-1 Barcelona victory. I give AC Milan a lot of credit. They've stepped up in a lot of ways, and they're playing prime football right now.
We'll see what happens. One of the other games is Galatasaray versus Schalke. What are your takes on it?
Well, Galatasaray is another interesting team in that they now have Didier Drogba, and they have quality football players. As you mentioned earlier before the show, that they have one of the best home crowds in the league, and it'll be a good game. And it's not a premier matchup, obviously, but it's one to watch. And certainly there are great football stars on both sides, and it's going to be a fantastic matchup, I believe.
I have they picked up Didier Drogba and also picked up Snyder in this past January window. I'm yet to see if both players are going to be involved, but if both players are going to be involved in the matchups, in the games, it's going to be a really good game. And I have, surprisingly, not really surprisingly, but I have Galatasaray winning the matchup. It's going to be a 1-0 win, though. It's
not a blowout by any means.
It's not going to be a good blowout, but I think the atmosphere of the game is going to be really nice because, as I said before, or rather, as you mentioned, Galatasaray have a really, really, really good fan base, and they're known or nicknamed or known to be the most rowdiest fans. They have
really.
It's
I know some teams that could give them a run for their money.
I'm just saying. Let's segue into Premier League news now.
Excellent.
One of the matchups this coming weekend. Obviously, this past weekend there wasn't really that many Premier League games because of the FA Cup, but this coming weekend there is quite a lot of matchups, including matchups to look forward to rather.
Well, I see some interesting matchups here also. We have Arsenal at Aston Villa, Tottenham Hotspur versus West Ham, Manchester United versus the Queen's Park Rangers, and Manchester City versus Chelsea. Obviously, the premier matchup for that weekend. What are you looking forward to this weekend?
For a third place Chelsea supporter, I'm hoping for a 3-0 win over Manchester City. That way we can leapfrog into hopefully. I'd like to say I think the gap between second place and third place, Manchester City in second place, and Chelsea in third place is about 5 points, if I'm not wrong, if they haven't changed. And if Chelsea pick up the win, it'll be a 2-point gap in between them. I'd rather have that than.
Do they really have to win by 3 goals?
I want it to be a really convincing win. And
no team needs it worse now than Chelsea. I would agree, but I mean, I don't see that in the cards.
I don't know. See, look, we're gonna have this conversation again. It depends on which Chelsea team shows up.
Sure, and there's no team that knows struggle better than Manchester City. But come on, let's be real here. Manchester City versus Chelsea 3-0. I don't see that by any means. Maybe you could hope for a 2-1 victory, or maybe even a 1-0 squeaker or something. But I think you're wishing on a star this weekend.
Let me. I have Chelsea being a stronger side now because ever since John Terry is back from injury, he actually scored over the weekend. With him on the pitch, they're certainly a stronger side, and I think if you're watching the game, with him on, there's going to be less defensive problems. They're going to be more fluid coming in from the back, and I think. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be a really close game, and both teams have really quality players that can spark up the game in a second. I mean, Silva is going to be phenomenal coming in from the wing. I don't know if Tevez is going to start this game because I know they sat him down for the previous game, and it's going to be a good game.
Well, they play Silva and Tevez very sparingly this year so far, but. I mean, I agree with you. John Terry will add fluidity to the defense and something that they've lacked all season. But, I mean, I think Manchester City just has too much speed coming off the break. I mean, I think they're going to blow by them, if anything. I mean, I see.
So wait, let me guess. You're picking Manchester City to win this matchup?
I would say, yeah, 2-1 Manchester City. Goals for Aguero, goals for Tevez, maybe even Dzeko. I mean, if he Dzeko, I mean, you can't deny any of these guys their goals. I mean. I don't even know who's going to score for Chelsea. It's gonna it might even be an own goal.
The biggest question for me, and this is a question mark, is who's going to start as a striker? Is it going to be Demba Ba, or is it going to be Fernando Torres? If Fernando Torres starts, I have no hope for the game.
Really?
I'm not bashing the player.
That's not something you hear every day from a Chelsea fan.
No, I'm not bashing the player. He's a top quality player, but he's not the same player that he was in Liverpool. And I know for the last 2 years, that's been the number one argument. But it's the number one argument because it's the truth. He's not the same player. He's lost his speed, and I think it's good. I think it'd be best if Demba Ba started for the matchup. That's the only way I have him scoring 3 goals.
Well, being a Newcastle fan, I wouldn't be opposed to Demba Ba getting the start over Fernando Torres. But I mean, I think that's a very quality assessment. There is that Fernando Torres has not been the same player since he's moved from Liverpool, and obviously he's got a lot of catching up to do. And I mean, they've had high expectations for him since he's been at Chelsea, and honestly, he hasn't stepped up, but in really clutch situations. And this may prove to be one of those situations. But for a man who's largely been transparent on the pitch. This is a big moment for him.
Let's look at the other matchup of the weekend, which is Manchester United, league leaders, Manchester United, square up against QPR. What are your takes on this game?
Well, I've said it once, I've said it before. Manchester United is the team to beat. Obviously, Queen's Park is not a team that will lay down by any means, and this is a very it's a very ambiguous matchup. I mean, you're not going to see clearly who's going to be the winner. This could very well come down to it.
What do you call it? I have looking at the other matchup, Chelsea versus Manchester United. I hope that Chelsea versus Manchester City. I hope that obviously Chelsea win, and the most favorite outcome from this matchup right now, QPR versus Manchester United, is for a draw. Do I see that happening with Manchester United's current form? I don't. I have them scoring 2 or 3 goals. I have Robin van Persie lighting up the scoreline again. It's a done deal. I'd hate to say this, but Manchester United are gonna win the Premier League title. It's a done deal. It's been done since January. We're just killing time here. That's exactly it.
Signed, sealed, delivered.
It's signed, sealed, delivered. Can we just, like, from next week's show, let's not cover EPL anymore, because we already know the winner. Let's look at second place, third place, fourth place. Start worrying about who's going to qualify for next year's UEFA Champions League, because I think that's a better matchup right now. And let's look at the last 3: who's going to get relegated, who's going to survive from relegation. Or better yet, let's start covering La Liga, because that's actually that's not going to help, because Barcelona's winning that too, because there's a 10-point gap from first place and second place.
Well, why don't we start covering Bundesliga? Oh yeah, Bayern Munich.
Because Bayern Munich's gonna win it too. I mean, it's a done deal. Like these matchups are just, there's nothing to add to it.
It's a good thing here at Primetime Football we are a fan of all matchups and not just the ones between the relegated teams and the second place.
I mean, on a serious note though, on a really serious note, the only thing that I have, and I guess I'm being optimistic because I'm a Chelsea fan. The only way I have Chelsea maybe winning the Premier League is rolling on 2 facts. First of all, let's get this clear. Manchester United have like a 12-point gap. That's a 12-point lead. That's the largest. That's enough to just cruise through the whole season.
It's insurmountable.
There we go. The best bet is for me to hope that, or rather for anybody who's trying to win the Premier League this year, is to hope that Manchester United slow down a little bit, hopefully lose games that characteristically they ought to win, to maybe lose the games and maybe draw. The one key matchup that's going to be coming up in a couple of weeks is United have to square up against Chelsea one more time, and I'm hoping that's one of the games that like goes in our favor and kind of cut the gap a little bit.
Well, Chelsea, as I understand it, is in 3rd place now?
It's in 3rd place, right.
Okay, so they're not so far behind, but I mean, a 12-point deficit, that's between 1st and 2nd, and then you got to add into Chelsea's points. I agree with you. I don't see another team beating Man United for the Premier League championship, but I mean, there's still the FA Cup, I guess, that Chelsea's in here. We have UEFA Champions League.
No, we're not. See, Chelsea's not even in the UEFA Champions League.
Well, I just threw that one in there, just not to give it.
I mean, disappointed? Yes, they're not in it. But at least the Europa Cup is I think that and the FA Cup are the best chances to win. There's nothing else. It's really clear cut.
You said it, not me.
Let's try to be honest. Well, on that note, that's all we have for you on this week's Primetime Football Show. Join us next week for more honest opinions, and have a lovely week.
More exciting football.
Definitely more exciting football.